welcome to another episode of Chat Zion, the city of cities when it comes to YouTube chat shows. Here again with Josepha. How you going?
Hello, I'm good. And yeah, good to see you again, Patrick.
Yeah, another week for us, and today we've got a question from one of our many viewers that we're getting now, slowly building up, and they wanted to know, do movies numb us from what's really going on in the world today?
I believe movies, some of the stuff that movie has to offer, I think they do numb us. They portray a bit of what is really going on, and sometimes a bit of things that like are not going on. And I think movies do really numb us because sometimes we intend not to focus on the real issue of life rather than being in a fairy tale of, all right, this is what I saw, I'll be that.
Yeah, you can get a bit of a case of that, when there are things happening in the world where, people are doing evil things in the world and bad things are happening. And even when good things are happening in the world, often they can be sort of skimmed over by social media and worldwide media because, the latest movies come out or, Ashton Kutcher divorced someone again and something random happened.
Yeah, the media is so good at doing that, blowing things out of proportion, and like it is good to an extent. Media is good if used in the right direction. Media comes from the word medium, so the medium. So it what is given out. So whatever media is good and is bad as well. So depending on how you use it, like Facebook is good, but if you get addicted to Facebook, then it's
and it's a case of, in the Bible, Matthew 15:11 says, "It's not what you put into your mouth which defiles you, but that which comes out of it."
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big point when we're looking at whether or not these things can numb us to the world and sort of desensitize us a little bit. A lot of the talk comes from people saying, all of these kids are growing up and they're being so violent because the video games that they play are also violent, or the movies that they are watching are also violent, and they accept that as normal. So in that way, we're being numbed a little bit to what's going on, because if something that's violent happens in the world, one country bombs another country, or there's been all of these crazy people in the world, driving cars up into shopping malls and things, and horrible things. But because people are used to that happening, they accept that it happens rather than getting upset about it.
No, definitely, I totally agree. Like even now, I remember GTA when it came out. How violent it was. You could drive a car and crash onto someone and things like that. And I thought to myself, man, this is when we were young, this kind of things. When I was younger, this was not even allowed to. My mom and dad wouldn't allow me to do it. And now it has become normal for kids. It's as early as 12, 10. It's normal. Some people do allow their kids to.
Yeah, and you see so many things of it. Grand Theft Auto was one of those ones that was a massively popular game, and is still played, and there's dozens of different versions of it now. And some of the things that you see in that, and some of the things that you had to do to beat the game in that, and they were things that were just not good. They were things that you shouldn't be accepting as a society in general. You shouldn't be sitting there going, okay, yep, great, you just ran over an old lady, good on you. And that just seems ridiculous. When you really sit back and think about it, that's not something that you want to promote as good, as right action. And movies have got the same sort of things as well. There's so many movies that come out that are based largely on violent behaviours and things like that. And you've got to be able to sit back and go, okay, how much of this are we allowing to actually affect our lives, and how much of this are we letting into our lives to the point where we accept that it's a normal part of our life. When you've got those things, then it's a one-off thing that happens. You see something and you can see it without really focusing too much on it, then it's not going to have too much of an impact on your life. And I was at a big men's conference the other week, and that was one of the points that the speaker made, was that we will see things, we will see things, but what you have to do is train yourself not to focus, not to dwell on those things.
Yeah.
Otherwise that becomes what you internalize, and we become numb to the fact that those things are not good things.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, depending on the environment that you allow yourself, and especially at home, mom and dad create the culture at home, the environment. And I heard a story once was said about this a lady that grew up in a abusive family, and when the girl was young, she grew up in an abusive family. So when she got married to a really good man, and to her it wasn't normal because of the environment she grew up in. It became normal for abuse, and sometimes we create the culture at home. What becomes a normal? That it's not good to see people suffer. It's not good to see people, it's not good to see people being shot and things like that. And when we create the normal at home, when our kids are exposed to how the world really is, they feel sad because they realize that, hey man, this is not normal,
Yeah, and I think that's right. I mean, we're very much a product of the environment that we are surrounded by. And it goes both ways, in good ways and bad. Because if you grow up in a house where there's abuse, or where there's no discipline, kids run riot and things happen and stuff is getting thrown around and broken, then that is what those kids grow up to see as normal. They accept that that's what happens. That's just how life works. And it's the same the other way when if there's a house where a father is constantly praising his wife or his children, the children see that and they say, oh yeah, that's what we do, that's what we're supposed to do. And then when they grow up and they become fathers and husbands or mothers or wives, then the normal thing for them, their expected behaviour, their learned behaviour pattern, is that they would be hugging their children, praising their children for doing good stuff, saying they love their wife or their husband. That's what they know as normal. That's what they know as right.
Yeah, that's right. I love the point you make, because I told myself when I had Marley, I give her a lot of affection, a lot of hugs. I tell her I love her, because I realized that when she grows up, if the man she meets doesn't live up to the man she already has and has seen being modeled in her life, that she said, nah, this is not the man for me. And women will always marry someone that they always, their perspective on what a man is the man that they have in their life. It's either be their brothers or their fathers. And my wife said, oh, I love rock music. And I said, oh, well, when she was growing up, she went through a stage where she just went rock and roll. And then I said, man, where did she get it from? And then I realized my brother-in-law loved rock music. Both my brother-in-law love rock music. And I thought, oh, that is where she got it from. The environment.
And the media that we have in our environment is part of that. We've spoken for the last couple of minutes about how it's very much about what happens with the actual people living in your life, but media is something that you can't escape from. Short of going Amish and living off the grid with no electricity in the middle of a forest somewhere, you're going to have exposure to media in some form, whether it's music or movie or TVs, and that becomes part of the fabric of our environment then. And even if our fathers or mothers or brothers and sisters are setting a really good example for us in our at-home environment, if we're looking at movies or we're looking at video games where the men and women in those games, the characters in those games and those movies, are not setting that same example, then that idea that we see for ourselves of what is normal and what is right becomes blurred. And then we can start to desensitize ourselves to some of those things which we have learned and been told are wrong things. We sit there and go, oh, but no, they're doing that, and that's good. So maybe it is good, and we can get a little bit lost in the chaos of having these conflicting ideas in our lives.
No, I totally agree.
All right, boys and girls, ladies and gents, that's all we've got time for on this episode of Chat Zion. Please like and share all of our videos. Send us through some questions in our comments or email us at chatzionmail@gmail.com. We'll see you next week. Bye.